Hello, Rose. So lovely to see you. Please come in. I want you to visit our home. Please come with me, Rose. I would like to show you our home, our palazzo. Let's go upstairs. This lovely lady was an ancestor of my husband. So she was the mother of this boy, dressed up like a girl, but that was the fashion of the time. And the boy was the grandfather of my husband's grandmother. So it's great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. But I still have her bracelet. It's a beautiful bracelet with sapphire and diamonds, shaped like two snakes. Well, I can't wear it every day, going shopping, but it's a lovely family jewel. This is a quite peculiar thing. This is a model for the Carro di Santa Rosalia, a gigantic float in the form of a ship that is built every year to honor the patron saint of Palermo, Saint Rosalia, who rescued the city from a terrible epidemic of plague in 1624. On the 14th of July, every year since 1624, except this year and last year for epidemic problems again. This festival is organized, and the climax of it is the procession of the gigantic float which is drawn from the cathedral until the seafront, the night of the 14th of July. So there must be the statue of the saint, the orchestra, and a lot of symbolic figures. And it's a fantastic festival that ends with a 1 hour long firework display. Hope that you can come, maybe next year when everything will be calmer, on the 14th of July, the night of the 14th, and watch this fantastic procession. This is the model for the float of 1974 festival, but it was inspired. The artist got inspiration from the float of 1701, one of the first we have some documentation about. So this ceiling has the only fresco that survived the American bombs in 1943. Palermo was practically razed to the ground during Second World War, and 70% of the historic center was destroyed. All the ceiling in our palazzo had frescoes, but only this one survived, because the shock wave of the bombs made huge damage to the roofs, and through the roofs leaked the water, the rain, and the rain made all the ceiling collapse, except this one, which we restored very recently. Here we have a lovely collection of 18th century French fans, which had been bequeathed to my husband by an aunt who was a great art collector. They have two sides, so we displayed in this glass case, which allows to admire both sides of the fans, and they're absolutely beautiful. They're all different from each other. Even the other side is different from this one. And even the staves are a work of art. They're all such an intricate work of art. We are now in the historical library. In this palazzo, Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa, the celebrated author of The Leopard, one of the most famous novels of the 20th century. Giuseppe Tomasi was, as I was saying, he lived here the last 9 or 10 years of his life. His family palazzo, Palazzo Lampedusa, was destroyed by the bombs in 1943, and he came and spent here the last years of his life. The palazzo had been also looted, so practically he had lost everything, and he brought here whatever he had managed to salvage from the rubble of his home. We call it historical library because here he kept his history books, mainly biographies, memoirs, and they're all cataloged, all divided by language, so French, the English, the German, the Italian, of course. We didn't change anything since his death. Giuseppe Tomasi passed away on the 23rd of July 1957, and this library remained intact. We had just reupholstered the 2 sets of couches. So all his history books are here. There are also some older books which used to belong to his great-grandfather, Prince Giulio Fabrizio Tomasi di Lampedusa, who would be the model for the main character in the novel The Leopard, Il Gatto Pardo. Here in the historical library and in the ballroom, you can see a beautiful parquet. Our palazzo is the only one in Sicily which has a period wooden floor. This goes back to the 1860s, 1870s, and was put here by the owner of 3/4 of the palazzo on those times. They were rich shipbrokers, and they decided not to use the maiolica tiles that are usually found in palazzos, but to have a wooden floor. The wood is walnut and cherry, and the pattern, especially here in the library, is astonishing. It's really beautiful. We are now in the ballroom of the palazzo. Here we have a lot of artwork, mainly from my husband's family palazzo, Palazzo Lanza Tomasi, which had not been bombed during the war. This is a beautiful table. The top is 16th century, and it's all marble, inlaid marble and pietra dura. It was made in Rome in the 16th century, and it's a very rare example of marble inlaid object. And one of the most important item in this room is the original complete manuscript of The Leopard, of Il Gatto Pardo. The novel was published posthumous 1 year after the death of his author in November 1958. And this is the complete novel. This is the very first edition, the typescript of the novel, and the draft of the 4th part. And these 3 things, an egg cup, a cigarette box, and a matchbox, are the only 3 objects that survived the bombs and the looters during Second World War, with the family crest of the Tomasi family, which is a leopard without the spots, and the crown of prince, and the motto, which says in Latin, "My hope is in God." So this is a room, a drawing room, which I love very much because there are a lot of family portraits. Mainly this beautiful painting. This is the portrait of my mother-in-law, so my husband's mother, Maria Concepcion Ramirez de Villaurrutia, with her first elder son, Giuseppe, who's my husband's elder brother. And my mother-in-law was Spanish, a great Spanish beauty, the daughter of a Spanish diplomat, historian, writer. She was an absolutely delightful creature, beautiful as beautiful can be, as you can say, intelligent, witty, great fun. She grew up between one embassy and the other, spoke many languages and had never been in a kitchen her life. She ignored where the kitchen was in their home, but she used to say, I think it must be that room with the white tiles. So, as you can imagine, there was no competition with her in the kitchen. She had a mother. I met her. I was very lucky because she was still alive when we got married. I got married in 1982, and she lived with us 7 years. So I enjoyed the pleasure of her company. Her mother, so Gioacchino's grandmother, my husband Gioacchino's grandmother, was another super beautiful lady. She was from Guatemala, and she was a great patron of the arts. She had a villa in Biarritz, and all the young artists at the beginning of the 20th century were her protégés, including Picasso, who was a great friend of hers. And Picasso made these two lovely portraits of her, of Gioacchino's grandmother. They're dated 1910. They're double side. There is also the back, but of course we had to choose one side. And it's a pre-cubist Picasso, so they're very realistic. As you know, I organize cooking classes in our palazzo. And this idea of the cooking classes was not my idea. I have a fantastic friend in New York called Kathleen. Our children grew up together when we used to live there. And once she was here visiting with her family, we went to the market together. And on our way back home, she said out of the blue, you know, I decided that you must do cooking classes. Now, I laughed. I said, that's this completely insane idea. I have no clue how to do it. I'm not a chef. I'm not a professional cook. I've never been to a cooking class in my life, and I have absolutely no idea what to do, how to start. She said, nonsense. You are a great cook. You are a great organizer. You speak many languages. You live in a palazzo by the sea. You're a duchess, and here is to you a day cooking with the duchess. So it's all her idea. So I started, having again no clue where to start from. My first cooking classes were for sure a disaster, but my guests seemed to enjoy it. So I very quickly learned how to get them better, and now I thoroughly enjoyed them. I love meeting new people. I love putting together complete strangers that then at the end of one day cooking with me have become friends. I love just this idea of food and culture putting people together, uniting people. It's really my philosophy to have this mixture of people of different ages, different countries, different culture, different everything, that find in cooking together, spending a day together, visiting the market, visiting my palazzo, a perfect way of becoming friends. This is just what I want. I want to spend a day with my students, so to say, which are my fellow cooks. We cook together. I'm not, as I said before, I'm not a professional cook. I have a completely different background. Used to be an interpreter, an organizer of our festival, but I love cooking. I've always cooked. Everybody cooks in my family, my mother, my grandmothers, and I just learned by watching them. I never went to a cooking class or to a master class. Mine are not master classes. I'm not a chef. If you want a master class, you go to a professional chef. I'm just a person who loves cooking, and this is not, my cooking classes are not only about food. They are about history, about culture. And even food here speaks volumes about the history of Sicily and the different civilizations that succeeded one after the other here. Every single dish is the result of 2,500 years of history. From the Phoenician to the Greek to the Arab to the Norman to the Roman to the French to the Spanish. I'm just saying just a few of the different cultures that succeeded, that came here to Sicily. And Sicilian cuisine is the real fusion cuisine, but in the good sense. It's not the nonsense of putting together fish and chocolate and 25 other ingredients. It's the fusion of different cultures. And food is culture. It's the history of a country. So that's what I want to do in my classes, and I hope that all my students understand and enjoy that. This beautiful girl portrayed here was Aunt Vivina, the aunt of my husband, who left the collection of fans to him. She was a great beauty, as you can see. Here she was 16, but she grew up to be an absolutely beautiful lady. Unfortunately, she had a very unhappy life because she married another dashing guy, and then when she was pregnant, he left her running away with a Hungarian dancer. Then she had the baby, and the son died very young in a car crash. She never remarried, never had any other children, spent all her life complaining and about all her unhappiness. But she left the fan to her, so she's still living in our hearts, and we can admire her fans. During my cooking classes, we prepare a 4-course menu, actually 5 course including the side dish. And I choose the menu, of course, according to the season. I cook only seasonal, fresh produce, local, of course. For instance, even for the fish, I choose the fish which is at the market the day of the class, and sometimes I have to change at the very last minute because, you know, fish it's unpredictable. So sometimes I call my fishmonger at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, no sardines today." But instead, I have some, let's say, beautiful mahi-mahi or whatever. So everything must be fresh, must be local, must be seasonal. My favorite recipes are all Sicilian, of course, but with a twist, because I'm not Sicilian. This is a dark confession I have to make. I was born in Venice, and I came to Sicily for the first time in 1982 when I got married. But I learned a lot about Sicilian cuisine. I love cooking. I've been living all over the world all my life, so wherever I was, I tried to learn new recipes and get inspiration. So my dishes are all Sicilian with some different touch, so to say. I tend to use less oil than they usually do here. Everything is lighter. For instance, one of my favorite dishes is the caponata. Caponata is a local glory. It's made of vegetables, and usually is made with fried aubergines. But instead of the fried aubergines, aubergines are sponges, they absorb too much oil. So I use green apples instead, which is not just my idea, because that was the winter version of the caponata, when food was seasonal, and in winter you didn't have aubergine, period. Nowadays you have everything every single day of the year. So the apples are not fried, so that there's much less oil than in the original recipe. And I use, instead of sugar and vinegar, which are the ingredients to make the sweet and sour that completes the recipe, I use apple vinegar and honey. So there are some little touches that make kind of different result. Another dish that I love making is the bianco mangiare. Bianco mangiare is blancmange, and it's a traditional medieval European recipe, but here in Sicily it's made with almond milk, which is the Arab touch. The Arab influence has been huge on Sicilian cuisine, because they brought here half of the ingredients that now are the staple in Sicilian cuisine. So the almond milk bianco mangiare is made from scratch, so that means that I make the almond milk from fresh almonds. Almonds grow beautifully in Sicily. In Sicily there are more than 300 varieties of almonds, especially in the area of Syracuse. Just to give you an idea, in California there are 23, and here there are more than 300. And it's great fun making the almond milk, because you have to milk the almonds. It's a very long procedure, I cannot explain you like that. You have to come to my cooking classes and I will show you. Actually, we will make it together with the wonderful organic Sicilian almond that I buy. And then it's decorated with wonderful ingredients like slivered almonds, pistachio, zuccata, which is what I call a secret ingredient. It's made of candied pumpkin. And of course, the final touch is given by the jasmine straight from my terrace. All the herbs and the flowers and the citrus come from my terrace. I have a beautiful terrace garden where I grow a lot of herbs. Well, I grow a lot of flowers, of course, and plants. And the herbs are only from the terrace. So the basil, the mint, the parsley, the sage, the thyme, the marjoram, whatever we need come from the garden. And in winter, all the lemons, the kumquat, and of course in summer, jasmine. But here, jasmine blossoms from the beginning of June until December, practically. So we have jasmine almost all year round. And it's the perfect decoration to the Sicilian desserts. In summer, another fantastic Sicilian dessert is what is called gelo di mellone. And mellone in Sicilian is the watermelon. And the watermelon juice is infused with fresh jasmine. So the fresh jasmine has to steep in the fresh watermelon juice. And then, of course, the watermelon juice is cooked, etc., etc. And when it's ready, it's again decorated with jasmine. So it's really, this flower is a symbol of Sicily, I can say. And of course, it had been brought here by the Arabs. So again, the Arabs left a huge influence in Sicilian cuisine. Of course, we are in Italy, actually in Sicily, and pastas are the favorite dishes. We use a lot of recipes, all Sicilian, again with my personal touch. One of our favorites is pesto alla trapanese, which is really quintessentially Sicilian. It's made of 3 ingredients, basically: basil, fresh tomatoes, and blanched almonds. Of course, it can be made only in summer when fresh tomatoes and basil are at their best. And you blend everything together, adding oil, salt, and pepper. This pesto comes from the Trapani area, and I learned it on the island of Levanzo, which is a small island just off the Trapani coast. It's part of the Egadi Island with Favignana and Marettimo. And I learned it in a small restaurant, which had a fantastic name, Hotel Paradiso, Paradise Hotel. And was there with my husband I just got married or something like that, so practically I learned 39 years old this year. And it's still one of my favorites. My son starts begging for it in January, but he has to wait until June at least. And all my students love it. Then there are, of course, the winter recipes like the pasta con I broccoli arrivinati, which means pasta with green cauliflower, saffron, pine nut, and currants. It's a very, very Palermitan recipes, because even in Sicily there are big differences between the eastern coast and the western coast. Then there are the island, like for instance the island of Pantelleria has a peculiar cuisine, absolutely delicious, and I use a lot of recipes from Pantelleria. So there are a lot of recipes that are typical of Palermo, like the panelle, which is a starter. They're kind of fritters, pancakes, or whatever you can call them, and they're made of chickpea flour, another ingredient that had been brought here by the Arabs. And there's panelle is the typical street food. Very, 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 very good. And a recipe from the island of Pantelleria, which I make often, is the famous Pantelleria salad. It's made of boiled potatoes, tomatoes, red onions, capers, and oregano. Capers are typical of Sicily, and they mainly gather on the island of Pantelleria or Lipari, because they need a very, very dry and hot climate. So a lot of recipes here use capers, of course preserved in salt, which is the only way of preserving capers. Forget about the capers preserved in brine. Here in Sicily you will find only the wonderful capers from Pantelleria preserved in salt. Well, what can I say? I just hoped to welcome as many of you as possible here. I can't wait to meet you. And my dear Rose will organize your trip and book my classes for you. So what are you waiting for? Next year you're allowed to travel, so please come.